Hey, this is Scott Snyder, and you're watching the Sci-Fi Center.
Welcome to the Sci-Fi Center, the place to be, where comic books and wrestling collide magically. Movies, TV shows, and pop culture we share. Get ready to rock, we're here to take you there. From superheroes to aliens in outer space, we've got the latest news and reviews in our embrace. Turn on your screen, let the neon lights glow. We'll take you back to the 80s. Let's rock and roll. Sci-Fi Center, where the legends come alive. Get ready to geek out, let your imagination thrive. We're diving into the past with a touch of modern flair. Sci-Fi Center, the ultimate pop culture lair.
Testing. Can you guys hear me? 'Cause, I just did a sound test and I was not able to hear myself. Let me check the stream. Let's go live to YouTube and see if I can hear me. Hold on for a second because something's wrong with the sound thing. Oh, okay, now we're good. They changed. Oh, man, for those of you who use StreamYard, they changed some shit. The layout screen is gone. The little thing I like, the little settings knob is gone. The sound settings knob is gone. I'm pretty sure it's here somewhere. But you know what, guys? StreamYard, you need to send out an email or something, a text. Hey, we changed some shit. It's like having a roommate or something, and you're gone for a couple of days, and the roommate changes the locks and changes everything around. You come home from, from out of town, you don't know what the hell's going on. So I'm like, damn. So all of a sudden, all right, cool. Guess we sound good. Welcome to a hybrid of what usually is the Sunday night weekend wrap up, which has been absent for the last couple of weeks because of Comic-Con and others did. And then last night I really met and really had every intention on doing a show last night. But I just got busy. I just got busy with stuff that we had to do inside the store. We're getting the game room ready, getting the board and tabletop game room ready, and this is all fucked up. And that kind of took priority. So just and then customers, and then a lot of the customers I had yesterday, they just were not coming out in the daytime. So we got a lot of stuff done in the daytime, and then usually mid-afternoon or so, maybe around 5 or 6 after I've decided for sure we're going to do a Saturday night show, then I start to lay out the show and put everything together, put together the thumbnail. I like to do those thumbnails on my own. I don't like using any generator when we do the Saturday night ones. And all of a sudden, once the sun went down, tours started coming out, and I just never got a chance to get back to putting together a show. So here we are doing it all on Sunday night. A lot to cover. I'm going to try to consolidate it. I didn't do, Comic-Con 1 week ago today, as a matter of fact. I did a stream from the house because I just got back from Comic-Con. Really didn't give you guys a, really thorough review of Comic-Con. I gave you a review of some stuff. So got to take a look at some of the stuff that we did cover because a lot of it has to do with what we're going to be doing. Blade Runner 2099. I think I showed you guys I think I did the trailers while we were at Comic-Con. They we had to get demonetized for that, but give you the final verdict on Comic-Con and the two major topics today, since it's not going to be a complete 4 or 5 hour show. Obviously, we're going to talk Spider-Man spoilers. I'm almost certain. I know Brad has seen it because he posted that he's seen it. You guys know I've seen it because I posted our or a screening of it. So it's at like $927 million. It's literally going to hit $1 billion on its opening weekend, which is insane. When there goes your superhero fatigue. And a topic that I got asked about in person, and I've been getting a lot of going back and forth online with the recent cancellations and change in plans of things like Blade, Ironheart, the accusations that Sam Wilson's being sidelined as Captain America. Newsflash: Sam Wilson was always a temporary substitute for Captain America. The fact that he ever got a movie, that headline a movie, is a miracle, and I don't think it was a good idea to begin with. You have groomed your audience, your MCU audience, from 2011 all the way to this day, even though he has not been around because he went and got a piece of ass that he wasn't supposed to get and grew an old man. Steve Rogers is Captain America. On every platform Steve Rogers has ever existed, even when Sam Wilson or Bucky has taken over, Steve Rogers is Captain America. So a lot of these things that have been sidelined or rescheduled or pushed aside, if I see racism, I think if I see racism, I'll say it. I don't see it here, and we'll go into details of that. But before we get into any major detail, earlier this afternoon, I was not able to be there in person. Brad
able to be there in person.
I wasn't.
Yeah. You weren't going to be there for Mortal Kombat, I know.
Well, the other one I was
Furious.
sort of interested in because I know why not. I would just rather take a how long was Mortal Kombat 2?
They're about the same length. They're about just under 2 hours, both of them. So it's about like 113 minutes each.
I'd rather rummage through a dumpster for 2 hours than watch Mortal Kombat 2 after that first one. But Furious, I was actually interested in. I just didn't have time today. So, guys, so it's not the first time the Sci-Fi Center is ring your alert bell today. So
we had a pretty good turnout for that too. We had like about 70 people watching for that. So
that's good. That's good.
Yeah, and we we would Perp. He wasn't too. He mentioned me like he's not as crazy about MK2 as.
Yeah, I did look, and I saw only 2 squares. When I looked on the Twitter thing, I'm like, "Whoa!"
Yeah, so
there's a ringing endorsement for MK2.
Well, so we for that we decided, we'll do the Furious first. So he was there for that. But it's great having back on the channel, and we wanted to do that watch party for. Well, we wanted to do it since the movies came out, and then I'd originally wanted to do it about 2 weeks ago, and then just stuff happened that Sunday, and then this last Sunday was my nephew's birthday, and I thought I'd be able to swing that better than I did, and I decided to tell them both in the middle of the day, I'm just not gonna be able to make it tonight, so let's go ahead and bump it back to the next Sunday. And then third time's a charm, so got that one in the books. We even got a super chat during it, and I had pretty good turnout. I thought people we had some eyeballs on that, so I'm pretty happy with how that turned out for and my first time that's my first time solo hosting a watch party. The only thing is that we didn't get the chance to because William just put Brad on there, and I had to go.
Yeah, because I figured that I didn't know exactly what everything was going to entail. So
well, I went in there, edited the title. The only thing is I just didn't put a thumbnail on that. I'm gonna see if I can go back in there, put one on, because you could put them on after the fact. I want to see if I can do that just for posterity. And
you got to go through YouTube Direct to do it, which you just
YouTube. And I wanted. It would have been. I was trying to do it right before we started, and it would involve just the 2 posters, but I just wasn't able to make it work at times. So screw it, was just go ahead and watch them. People know we're watching, so. But yeah, overall, pretty happy with how it turned out. We had a lot of fun with it. So thank you everybody who joined us for that. That was a lot of fun.
All right, Rational Skeptic with a $5 super chat. Rumors. Just man, until we're done with Secret Wars, just the word rumors is going to be like a goat kicking.
It's interesting. It's interesting you should say that, Irrational, because we were literally at the very end of Mortal Kombat 2. Aaron and I were talking about mentioning Carl Urban being fan cast to be Hugh Jackman's successor of us.
He's too old, and that's the problem. Is that when Hugh Jackman first took on the role, he was much younger.
He was about 31 or something like that.
Yeah, Carl.
Carl.
That's a singer. He's
only about 4. Yeah, he's only 4 years older or 4 years younger than Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, that's not young to do this role for the length of time that they want you to do the role. rumors that Hugh Jackson may still be around. So I think he's in both Secret Wars and Doomsday. To be honest with you,
And
I
with
think this is the last time you see him. Though, hold on, let me. I think they need to find a new actor. Yeah, I think. To be honest with you guys, I think they already have their actors. I think they have their X-Men plan set up. I think they have their Wolverine. I think they have you have their Jean Grey. If
they
they're
got X-Men member already.
yeah, if they're going, even though I don't think this Jean Grey that you saw in this Spider-Man. By the way, it is a spoiler topic, so I didn't even need to put the spoiler thing on there.
I mean, $900 million worth of people already saw the movie, so
I think Sadie Sink will be in the X-Men movie. I don't think this version of her that you saw in Spider-Man will be, because I don't think any of these versions of these characters. Spider-Man's character is going to change. Spider-Man's character is going to change because of how Secret Wars work, and they have confirmed. They confirmed this at Comic-Con that the version of Secret Wars that they're using, as far as their template goes, their basic template, not the 1-for-1, is the Hickman one. And if you understand the way the Hickman Secret Wars works, none of the shit that we've ever seen is going to really matter. It really isn't, because what they did in that Hickman universe is they consolidated timelines so that universes were merged and that certain things were not affected and certain things were. Like, obviously, you know that the X-Men that are going to get introduced are going to be introduced in a brand new timeline. But Spider-Man is going to be there. Fantastic Four is going to be there. And other elements are going to be there. But once this is all over, it is going to be a completely different MCU. And they made sure that they even said the R word, because they know how I think about the R word. They said this is not a reboot. Kevin Feige specifically said this is not a reboot. Now, I got my word for it because it's what DC should have done 2 or 3 years ago. It's selective realignment. But that is basically what they're doing. They're looking at their salad and picking out the shit that they no longer want or need in it, and they're going forth with a whole new, thing. But they're going to keep. Obviously, you're not going to get rid of Spider-Man. But there will be certain things in there that get consolidated. Like, you're going to end up with a composite universe that is all the X-Men shit that you've ever seen. And it's going to be from the beginning of time. So there will, when we come out of the other side of Secret Wars, there will not be, according to that current Marvel universe, if they're doing it the way the Hickman universe, your entire time in the MCU will always have had mutants. They will have been there from the time Apocalypse is discovered all the way to whatever the current time is. And you'll have a mutant history that is already there, because you will have combined all the ones that we've already had. So, and I think the Celestials will be involved. I think a whole bunch of things will be involved. Obviously, Loki's going to be involved. But, yeah, I think we're going to get a whole new ball of wax. I think we're going to get a new X-Men. And he doesn't want to do this anymore. I mean, I know the joke is till he's 90. But you just go catch some recent interviews of Hugh Jackman and what he puts himself through to become that character. And there's really not much more story to tell with Hugh Jackman's character, especially if you're going to tell an aging look. We already did that. So, William, when you come over to New York CC, I'll treat you to a huge burger from Jackson Hole, Goodfellas, or something there. Okay, cool. I'm doing my best. To work it out to get to New York Comic-Con. I really want to cover that Comic-Con.
Are you trying to get that?
I'm trying to get to that. I'm not getting in as press, so I'd have to be an outright buyer. But
you ever done both those in a year, San Diego and New York?
I've never done New York at all. So I've done 5 conventions this year. It's just the most I've ever done in my life.
And that's New York's pretty big too. I mean, it's
York's the second biggest one in the nation.
Yeah.
So I have to see how things go. I'm going to try, but no promises. But I really would like to cover that one, especially with the information dispersal, the way things are these days. It's not all going to be just at Comic-Con. So oops, I got to get rid of this. Hold on. I got to unstart. Thank you for the $5 super chat. And hey, Vince, long time to see you. Nice to see you.
He was in the chat with us tonight for the watch party.
Watching that crazy shit. William, brand new day. How is Frank Castle at the hospital with Peter, one of the federal Peter? Okay, something was cut out of this movie, and I found out afterwards. Because guess who worked on him?
Who worked on? Should we just go into Spider-Man now?
Yeah, we can just go ahead and do it.
Okay, so Spider-Man Brand New Day. I saw it Thursday night, and actually, I DM'd William because I went for round 2 on a Saturday, and I was just really just drained. I was on the first show. I ended up working out anyway because he wasn't able to shoot at all. So yeah, I've seen it twice. I love this movie. I love Brand New Day. I really.
It's number 5 for me. It's number 5 for me of overall Spider-Man movies. That includes the two top ones, which are the 2 animated ones. So it's a high-five.
But yeah, I really. This is
hold on. Before you go into let me answer his question, and then we'll go into review because I don't want to keep his question to doing. Rosario Dawson's character was the one who performed surgery on him.
Oh, really?
So when Frank when Frank rescues him and brings him into the hospital, he brings him into a wing that is guarded. And because Spider-Man's a hero, nobody messes with. Even Frank is wanted. He's wanted nationwide, but somehow they were able to keep him isolated. But that's who worked on him, and that's why nobody knew his identity other than Frank, who was sitting there literally guarding him. As the only one is because she would be able to keep that secret.
And they should have left that in.
Huh? I think they should have left that. That would have explained this question right here. Yeah. And what happens is that's who he called. He called, and he
probably occurred to me.
Yeah, he called and had her waiting. So Spider-Man, they knew what hospital he was at, but once you're gonna go up and fuck with the Punisher once he's up there with him.
Yeah, that's true. And by the way, also when he carries him in, of course they recreates that iconic, Civil War image.
They did a lot of that shit. I thought it was fun.
They did Amazing Fantasy number 15. They did there was, I think it was one of the ones where Scorpion uppercuts.
Yeah, when he pushes him up. Yeah, there's a video that Dave showed while we were on the vodka stream that shows all of them. Hey, thank you for the five memberships, Larry. Thank you.
But going back to general thoughts, yeah, I really enjoyed the Brand New Day, and this is coming off of the high of the 1-2 punch high of No Way Home and Across the Spider-Verse. And this, I think, really, of like Tom Holland's tenure, this is definitely the one that really kind of dials in on like the street level,
the grown ass man,
and kind of not only that, but also like and this becomes a plot device with it too, like the isolation of a Spider-Man, like his singularity, with what he's having to navigate. And actually, also this wasn't. I don't know if it's like in any deleted scene, but I saw somebody on Twitter ask, like, well, what's, because they had the amnesia spell at the end of No Way Home. Nobody remembers Peter Parker. So, and he's still a kid at that point, too. I mean, he's not even out. He's getting his GED, as we see, because of how much he ruined his life to save the world at that point. So I remember on social, somebody asked, like, well, because in the movie, it doesn't show him, like, working any kind of day job. So someone raised the question, like, how is Peter supporting himself? And somebody else quote tweeted that and said, well, Aunt May's life insurance probably is pretty probably a safety net for him. It's like, yeah, I can see that. But anyway, going back to thoughts on the movie. Yeah, I really enjoyed like how this is how much of a character study this is for him in the post No Way Home context. And there's a lot of, like, as far as the villains, I mean, we knew like Scorpion was going to be, we knew Tombstone was going to be, and we even got a little bit of a flash of that one guy in the red. That was the Rose, right? I'm pretty sure that was in that whole montage of him catching people, like right after Tombstone. There was a guy in red, and he looks kind of similar to Deadshot, but I took that to be Rose.
I must have missed that.
Okay, but at Tombstone, he's like blinking, you miss it. I mean, he is really briefly in this movie. I thought he actually
people thought he was going to be the main video.
Yeah. And then of course you got all the rumored speculation of Jean Grey, but I mean, I was always kind of on the fence about, like, okay, I mean, I could see a case either way.
That's one of the problems I had with the movie.
And not only is she in it, but she's in it. She's basically the antagonist.
Yeah, I mean, it just doesn't fit for me.
And when I say that, she's not the villain. The villain is
is Damage Control.
Yeah, which this is a spoiler discussion, everybody. So if you've not seen the movie, you've been warned.
It's literally said on the title.
And I knew as like the first sequence when he's chasing the tank and like dealing with all like the mind controlled people, that's where it clicked for me. It's like, okay, this is because unless I missed one, are there any Spider-Man villains that have telepathy as a power? I mean,
There's a
I can think
few.
of. Yeah.
There's a few, but I mean, all right. So let me do this real quick. Um, weeks ago, like all this entire time where people just been throwing Jean Grey's, the reason why I kind of resisted it because it didn't make any sense. As much as I enjoyed the shit out of Spider-Man Brand New Day and as well told as Jean Grey's story was, it made no sense to be in this movie.
She's
It
basically
made,
Magneto in this. They gave her
I,
kind of Magneto's arc.
I didn't need Magneto in this. They really did a awesome job in making this, even with all the guest characters, even with all the quick cameos, even with uh, just almost too many characters and too many things going on in this movies, they always slingshot it back to Peter Parker, Spider-Man. They did a really good job making this entirely revolve around him.
Yeah, it's
I would have much rather seen a villain that was more spider centric than something that really should have been in another movie. If this is what you're planning on doing with Jean Grey sometime, this just wasn't the place for it because you really kind of kneecapped the character to begin with. Not that this character is going to be the one you ever see again, this version of the character you ever see again, but she takes up a lot of time in this movie. And you did everything else in this movie to make this a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. And then you bring in a character that doesn't fit and a story that doesn't fit, well told as it was, when you could have just done what you did with the rest of the movie, which is make it Spider-Man, make it about him, make it about his core villain. Give me a core villain. Even if you didn't want to make any of the ones, the little 2-second cameos, you could have. Even with the ones you showed, and you didn't do anything with, you still had about another 90 of them that you could have done and made this his movie. I mean, hell, as much as I know Kingpin's is a Sony villain, but that's a phone call away. I would have much rather had Kingpin in this movie. I don't think he's a Spider-Man villain as much anymore than Jean Grey in this movie. It just didn't. That's the only thing about this movie that really didn't fit for me. And never did.
With damage control, like, are there any because like the way I describe, like, Jean Grey is an antagonist, damage control they're the villains. Are there, like, within damage control, is there anybody who's like canonically a Spider-Man villain in that kind of the collection?
Norman Osborn, I think, corrupts it. And to me, personally, I just thought this was a missed opportunity, but it worked. It worked for them. I'm not saying that what we saw with Jean Grey was bad or that it really hurt the movie. I'm just like, why? I didn't get it, and I didn't connect with it.
And see, that's where I think I might know where they're going with, like, what they had as far as like how they're going to integrate the X-Men into everything. I think they're, and this plays into
we're 2 years away from that. We might be 3 years away from that.
Well, this plays a little bit of what we talked about, like with Magneto, his canonical origin of being a Holocaust survivor, and of course we're now far enough removed. I mean, how many living Holocaust survivors are there? So if you're talking about setting X-Men in present day, then that kind of like, okay, you have to sort of shift Magneto's origin to a different time period. And I think they maybe were planting the seeds of that with Jean Grey, because she has kind of like the spirit of her. Or so to go into this, everybody.
By the way, her origin story kind of sucked. By the way,
what this is, Peter discovers that this new villain is jumping into people's minds and like trying to break into damage control in New York, and he eventually uncovers that it's Jean Grey, and then he apprehends her, turns him over to her, and then he finds out later on what happened is that they kidnapped her sister because she has the same powers, and they are experimenting on her, and now they're trying to do the same to Jean Grey. And of course, this is like, that doesn't sit well with Jean Grey. So Peter, now realizes, okay, it's like I pegged her wrong. I have to set this right, and that's where I see like a little bit of like, this is kind of like transplanting a little bit of Magneto's traditional backstory to her, because the idea that somebody who's like coming from like a background of being persecuted and seeing, okay, I'm seeing this happen on a larger scale to my own kind, because we're different from humans.
I didn't need that. That's all sounds great in an X-Men movie, not in a Spider-Man movie. I just thought that I always say when your title character is so and so, wherever it is, everything it ends and begins with that character and the things that are familiar to that character, and that's all fine. That there was a time and a place to tell that story, and I just didn't think it was in this movie. Even if they pulled it off, it's like as easily as you could have pulled that off. Why? I mean, Spider-Man didn't have any villains that could really put him to the test. So, and you're doing it pre-Secret Wars, which means there's a whole bunch of shit about this that's not going to last. It's going to change. So anything you established with any of these characters pre-Secret Wars is subject to change. So you may see Sadie Sink again, but if what they are going to do, if they're going to keep consistent, and the whole point of this was to restore the sacred timeline going forward with the new MCU, then none of this really matters anyway. How they establish Jean Grey's character here is not really going to matter in a new universe that's going to be basically not rebooted but reset and realigned. So that was, and then Damage Control was kind of weak. It's kind of a weak, they kind of took up a little bit more time on the screen than I like. In fact, let me think. All of their time on the screen was connected to her. And
also they facilitate how the hand is in the movie.
Yeah, which I didn't. Come to think of it, I wasn't really that was disappointing. Given, I like my idea how they were involved in the movie better than what we.
Daredevil, which by the way, Daredevil is not in this movie.
Not in the movie at all. And then even there were so many things I could. But that being said, I thought this was a hell of a movie. I thought this was a lot of fun. This was the most Steve Ditko. Spider-Man movie that they've ever done. For those of you who don't know Steve Ditko, he is the co-creator of Spider-Man. It's been 60 years. It doesn't matter who draws Spider-Man. And this is Todd McFarlane, John Romita, Mark Bagley. Doesn't matter. Everybody gets their bones and goes back to what Steve Ditko did. Even McFarlane with his exotic lines and he even says, I go back to what Ditko did. And Ditko drew him as a spider. Ditko, his movements, everything. So this was the most Ditko movie. Is it the best Spider-Man movie for me? No, it's not even remotely. It is on. You put No Way Home for me is number 4, and this one, as good as it was, is for a lot of reasons that it has nothing to do with its movie or its merits, is nowhere remotely close to No Way Home. It's
by the
not
way,
even
Aaron,
close.
I saw you post this. It sounds like Edgy, she said she thought it was like 3 out of 5, so she wasn't like blown away by it. But so I'm probably the most positive out of the 3 of us on that because I really loved it.
As good as it is, it's the best Tom Holland portrayal of Spider-Man. Yeah. That doesn't mean it's a better movie than some of the other ones. It is the best. It is the most complete portrayal of Tom Holland as Spider-Man. The action and the swinging, the way they incorporated the Sony video games into this was showing you that Sony's a big part of the Spider-Man thing. People think it's just Kevin Feige,
and of course, from for folks like Aaron and Burp and I, the watch party we just did, this has got the craziest Spider-Man fight scenes you've seen ever. I mean that hand fight at the end. The unnecessary hand fight. By the way, if I knew, and she's controlling them, and they're not even fighting with. So I'm like, that the poster's cool. It makes the poster look good. It makes the trailer look good. Hold on, let me, because I'm gonna forget my thoughts. I'm old. I thought this movie was great. I recommend renting this movie to anybody at any level of Spider-Man. It deserves all the money that it's making. I had some issues with it. Like I said, the Jean Grey, I completely thought that was out of place. I thought that was a good starting point, possibly for another movie, some other place, some other time. There's borderline too many people in this movie, too many things going on in this movie, but it just gets to that preface, and then it comes back to Spider-Man enough to where that didn't hurt it. The things I did like about this movie
The costume looks great. They like I said, they really went back to Ditko on this one. A dynamic I was worried about with a PG-13 rating was the Punisher dynamic. I thought they used the Punisher just the right amount of time on the screen, and I thought they used him perfectly to counter what Peter has become. And some of the things he did was perfect, and that's a really hard character to do when you've established him the way that they established him.
He's in about as much as Doctor Strange is in the last one, right?
Yeah, just probably the same amount of times. His and just the fact that it is Peter Parker at its best when he is relying mostly on himself, when he's relying on his own. Even though he went out for hope and help Hope, he came to the conclusion that he needed help. He chose the type of help. When he went out and asked for Frank to help with MJ, he formed that decision. He wasn't subservient. Everything that happens in this movie is because of he either initiated or his initial response to it. And you really didn't have that, even in No Way Home, which is a better movie. But there was a lot of other mindsets in that movie, And then, by the way, there's Tom Holland's in this movie too. Here, it's all about Tom Holland. It's all about his character. I thought the scenes with Zendaya were great. Especially the one scene where he just realizes, and when Jean actually said, "There's nothing in here about you," and she's like, "I don't love you. I don't know who you are."
And now, admittedly, it is hard to not have chemistry with somebody who you're literally married to, but
yeah, but they're actors too. Yeah. And I thought the thing at the end was cool. The muscle memory with the handshake. Because that spell, we did learn that spell. It did not. No. That's not his muscle memory did that. Their memories of him are gone. They are not in their heads. That's one of the things that this movie did. Because I thought that people were thinking, well, maybe Jean Grey was unsuppressed. No, she was inside all of their heads, and she didn't see anything. So their memories are gone. So that was harrowing because that was a reality that kind of hit. Now, none of that's really going to matter, by the way. Because when they realign this universe, MJ is going to know who he is. They're all going to know who he is. And No Way Home, a lot of the stuff that's happened in the MCU over the last 20 years is going to not have happened in the way that, we'll always have seen it happen that way. But when they realign this universe, like obviously everything in Endgame, because I think Endgame is part of the problem that has splintered the universe and is allowing Doom to do what he's about to do. So you're going to have to undo Endgame, which means you're going to have to bring back Thanos. Because of the way they stopped him, I think is what's part of what Secret Wars is going to be about. So that's just a theory.
Real quick point on the some of the effects, which again, like talking about like the action in this movie is like some of the best you're ever going to see in a Spider-Man movie. So you had several members of the Jackie Chan stunt team, a lot of Hong Kong people on it. So as a fan of that genre. That's like I was very much a happy camper in Spider-Man, but also and this plays also in kind of into the subplot of Peter. We see like he's developing the organic webbing, and it's the idea that because his spider hormones that he inherited from the spider bite, it's
that didn't go anywhere.
That coupled with his kind of his isolation, it's causing him to have these like I kind of liken it a little bit like Wolverine's berserker rage when he has the eyes turn black and he gets really aggressive, and then of course he can shoot his own webs. But playing into that also, this with the effects in this movie, I think this has got to be the best looking webbing I've ever seen in a Spider-Man movie. I mean, this shit looks real.
I have to look at it again.
This webbing, I mean, even the trailers, it was impressing me, and this webbing is like, this is. I know it's a weird angle to praise around, but this looks like something that like a human-sized spider would produce. Would be like this kind of webbing we've seen.
Not a big fan of the natural webbing, no matter who's doing. By the way, Toby or I.
Well, I'm not saying like when he like the organ. I'm just like anytime there's web fluid being shot in this movie, it looks very authentic. I mean, it looks like something you would like a spider would like try to trap insects in.
Hmm. All right, of course you will stay around. I don't think Marvel has a problem making money with anybody. They do not have to keep you around to make money. Did you see what they just did this weekend?
Which,
They
by the
know
way,
how to
also
make money.
to add on to
They'll
that,
be fine.
to add on to the success of this, actually, is going to kind of go into a little bit like the commercial discussion of this. So it opened to 355 domestic and 927 total. So this is, I mean, there's zero question this is going to cross a billion by like the time like by next weekend. But apparently, like with some like because with Sunday they always have to do like a estimate based on what the Thursday, Friday, and the Saturday numbers were. But it came in like the end game, domestic opening be almost 357, and this was 355 as of right now. But now there's talk I'm seeing that it might actually beat Endgame's domestic opening record because it's already within like 2 million of that. So, do you think that this outdoes No Way Home, like all told, like worldwide? I mean, it's already basically at $1 billion.
Well, there was No Way Home on its first weekend.
That did also now that did have the the re-release. I don't know how much that added to it, but No Way Home, that I think that topped out at 1.9.
What did it? I mean, it's there's nothing coming at it. So it's possible because there's nothing coming out of it. What's being released this week, and it doesn't really matter because I don't think whatever is being released is going to stand up to
No Way Home. That 1.921 billion. That's where it finished up at. Now again, some of that is from the more fun stuff. I don't know how much that added to it, but I mean that did add something to it. So, but yeah,
that's the key to failure, Kevin. They've never. When have they played it safe? They literally built this empire by taking risk. That's one of the things. Regardless of the result of the MCU, I've always respected the fact that they did their thing. They don't give a shit about offending people. They do. See, this is what happens when you have faith in your plan. When you have a resume, you know what you can do. You know the people around you. You know who to hire and what their talents are. I don't think fear is in the lexicon of Kevin Feige or Marvel. Even though they're not perfect and they'll make mistakes and they'll make adjustments. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that they're gods or anything, but they don't operate on fear. They don't operate on that type of thing. They generally are going to do their thing. And most of the adjustments that the MCU makes, and people are always saying, "Oh, the fans said this, and the MCU saw, and they were scared." They don't give a fuck about you.
No, there is one thing they saw that they directly replied to in this movie, and it's it's when Peter goes to the lecture, the Bruce Banner's physics lecture, and the one guy raises his hand and said, "Why didn't Thanos like just replenish the resources there?" Because you've seen that people were in that point up right with Infinity War.
No, because probably.
Well, no,
that point was
raised. That point was raised in Infinity War. Is like, why didn't he like just create more bountiful resources with the Infinity? And then they don't even really answer that. They just kind of like have one guy dressed as Hulk because they make a joke about that where Bruce says like, "Hey, has anybody got a real question? You just want to ask me about Avengers stuff?" and then he gets that question. And then another kid who's dressed up as the Hulk in the lecture, he says, "Hey, you take this one." And he just
that
says,
was one of the lamer parts of the movie. Kevin, where have they ever shown that type of fear though? To where they I mean, they're gonna make money. They're gonna make money just doing things the way they've done it. I mean, I don't know who they're gonna be offending at this point. I mean, I clarify that, please.
Well, anyway, yeah, as we all expected. Although I don't know if I was expecting it was going to open very big, but I mean, this blew me away at this opening. This definitely didn't really debunk superhero fatigue. It kind of more obliterated it one week.
That superhero fatigue is just an excuse for people to not understand that, when you condition people for A-list characters and you don't give them those A-list characters, then they go find something else to do. That's just as simple as that. Just got back from Spiderman. Boy, that may have been the best Spider-Man movie. I saw I saw you post something like that. I can't. Highest I could put it is a distant fifth. And I like the movie. But and when I say a distant fifth, it's not. I hear people saying it's better than No Way Home. It's all subjective, so you're not in a wrong opinion. I can't even put it in the same screen as that movie. That movie was epic in ways that Brand New Day can never touch for reasons that have nothing to do with Brand New Day. For me, it's number one is obviously Into the Spider-Verse. Across the Spider-Verse is number two. Number three is one of the great sequels of all time, superhero or otherwise, Spider-Man 2. Number four is Spider-Man. And that push number four?
Yeah, you said it was number four.
It's fine.
No,
Okay,
you said number four for you was No Way Home.
It was No Way Home. Yeah, No Way Home, and then you go to the original Spider-Man, and then yeah. So this has got to be fifth for me. I might have got my 4 and 5 mixed up, but I know what my top four are, and this movie wasn't in.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Spider-Man
sleep on it
movie.
for like ranking wise for a while, but I definitely really.
But I wouldn't if somebody came out and told me that they thought this was. But there's a lot of reasons for people to think that way. I couldn't really make an argument.
The one thing, this goes into spoilers, so you haven't seen it, but
it's spoiler. Scott, by the way, guys, spoiler review is literally in the title. So
again, like I say, I can't imagine there are many people watching, judging from the opening weekend. I can't imagine there are many people who are watching right now who haven't seen it. But the scene in the hospital at the end when Peter wakes up and Frank says, "Okay, when you're ready to get out of here, I have a way to help you step out," and Peter walks out. There's a whole crowd out there, like just holding signs, because Peter ends up taking a bullet for Jean Grey from Frank when it looks like she's going to, go nuts and wipe out all of New York. And Frank shoots at her. Peter steps in the way. And so he's recovering in the hospital from that. There's a crowd out there. Everybody's like on pins and needles waiting for him to see what's going to happen with Spider-Man. And, he walks out as Peter Parker in the crowd's waiting. And then Frank, he's back up in the second floor room that Spider-Man's in, and he puts on the mask and is like, "Yeah, I'm okay, everybody." So the whole crowd cheers, and Peter's like looking around like, okay, they're thankful for his for what he does and for what he inspires in them. And there's this one kid who looks over at him and does that, and it's kind of like indicating the kid's putting two and two together. And Peter, flips back at him, and I really dug that scene on a lot of levels because it's not just like, it's great not just as like a metaphor for Spider-Man, but really just the idea of being a superhero at all. The idea that, the public, they're looking up at the symbol he represents and the person behind the mask, behind the cape, behind the symbol, he's walking right next to them and they don't even notice him. But he's, again, that's part of his personal sacrifice, and he can still feel the power of what they, of how much he's affected them and how much he's brought out the best in them. He's walking among them as they're cheering him on. And that one scene, I really again, there's not a lot of dialogue other than cheering, but I really love that scene. Again, it's not just because it's not just Spider-Man. That's just being a superhero. It's like they're cheering the face he puts on, and they don't see him walking among them.
All right, is it okay to be racist towards mutants after everything Dream? No, and that was one of the major problems that I had with even putting her in this movie. In order for this mutant saga to mean anything, you have to establish a lot of that. Just having her randomly appear in this movie doesn't establish the thing that they're going to establish in order to make the mutant saga mean as much. The school, why do we have the school? What is Professor X's dream? What is Magneto's antagonism about? All that. And I'm like, if you're going to bring this character out, then do it in that context. But no, you don't hear anything. There's nothing that they leave behind to be like, oh my God, that you may not even know who she was because of all the secret operations and things that they hid. So it wasn't like there was this big, broadcast of this evil mutant takes over Manhattan. No, there wasn't any of that. So no, I mean, I don't think there will be any effect like that. Any lasting effect like that. And then it brings me back to the question, why her? Why in this movie? So yeah. Word is bond. Thank you. The first time here. Welcome to Cypherson. When I watched the movie, I thought about something Peter created, the inhibitor device to stop mutant powers in the MCU. How do you feel like that? I think that's a little bit overblown as far as people are like, oh, that's going to happen. They're going to, Peter's going to be the blame for, what happened in, the X-Men movies when they inhibit the Sentinels already have those.
Well, and it's not like he mass produced those either. And I think his even gets destroyed at the end where he learns to master his spider DNA.
Every Sentinel you see has one of those. So, and you see, if you watch the trailer, the one now, Dr. Doom has a bunch of Sentinels under his control. So I thought that was something that people were asking me about, and I'm like, that's cool, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to cross over and be some big, story plot for the X-Men stuff. I don't know what they're going to do with the X-Men, but I don't think anything that happened in this movie is necessarily going to be relevant given the realignment of the universe. So I did notice that. I did get asked about that personally, and then I'm like, nah, because every Bolivia Trask, who created the Sentinels, literally has that technology sitting on his dashboard. So, all right. Actually, apparently that was government that made her like she was in B&D. I didn't. I mean, the plot was lost on me when it came to Jean Grey. I spent just a little bit too much time scrambled to be like, okay, where does this fit? Why are we here with this yet? I know we will eventually be in 3 years, but why her now, and why this storyline prior to the universal realignment? So that's just a question to ask. The mutant power and neutralizer objects are just nothing hilarious to not take seriously. I don't think his, but if you're talking about will this cross over to X-Men, we already have people that have created that technology in the X-Men mythos, so you really you don't need to have it in the Spider-Man movie. You're talking about, all kinds of the villainy in the X-Men. Hell, fucking Magneto has one. So, and he created it on his own. Peter Parker created a device to stop mutant powers in the MCU. How do you feel about that? Did you just ask me that question? Okay, you did ask me that question. I didn't even look. I thought he was already in jail.
I'll have to. When it's on streaming on Blu-ray, I'll freeze frame it, try to see if I can spot that.
Let's see. I mean, given I could have, for every moment damage control was on my screen, I would have taken Matt Murdock. Peter Parker might be the main star in MCU Civil War Part 2 because he created an inhibitor stopped X-Men mutant powers. I don't think you're going to Civil War Part 2. Where'd that come from? Because we know what their next movies are going to be. I mean, sure, it's a stretch, but sure. Let's say, I don't think you're going to need Secret Wars, though, as far as to bring out that kind of conflict with the X-Men. Once after Secret Wars, I don't know if you meant to say Secret Wars, but Secret Wars happens and you are left with a reality that has always had X-Men. The whole conflict with the X-Men, and this is why the Dream Great thing just really hit me like it did everybody else, is that the reason why they are feared is not because they have superhuman powers. Hell, fucking half the MCU has superhuman powers. It's because they represent an evolutionary stage that could subjugate Homo sapiens. That's always been the fear. That's always been the fear, is that the evolution, that they are the natural evolution of mankind, and that anybody that's not evolving with them will live under their feet. And then it doesn't help when you have Apocalypse literally culling people that he considers to be weak. It doesn't help when you have Magneto, back in his early days, basically preaching that same thing. Homo superior versus Homo sapien. That's the biggest fear you have. And since you don't have any known outright mutants to use as an example of, oh, look at that, then it's really hard to create the basis of what I think will be the MCU X-Men. You have to have that. You have to have that backdrop in order to make your characters work. especially if you're going to bring in a Magneto. You would have had to have a history of persecution in order to make his plight work. So I don't know if the inhibitor. Listen, I can't tell the future, and what makes sense to me might not make sense to them, and vice versa. Jean Grey being in this movie didn't make much sense to me. I could have transposed her, and the movie would have still been as strong. So could they use the inhibitor? I think sure, but what they're about to go up against, they're about to go up against people who can create things far more effective and more terrifying than that. So yeah, I don't know. Thunderbolts writers are writing X-Men. It's going to be safe and okay. I'm going to have to respectfully disagree with you. Safe and boring are not any adjectives I would describe for Thunderbolts. If that was safe and boring to you, Kevin, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry because you and me saw two different movies. I would have to respectfully not even come close to agreeing with that. Thunderbolts dealt with a lot of issues that superhero movies do not deal with.
And speaking of Thunderbolts, Yelena, of course, makes a pretty fun cameo.
Thunderbolts deals with a lot of issues that superhero movies just don't deal with ever, period. Drug addiction, depression, loneliness, regret, all in the same movie. And they did it masterfully. I don't know what you're comparing Thunderbolts to call it safe. I'm interested. Maybe I can get a better context of why you thought that movie was boring. I thought Thunderbolts was the best comic book movie of 2025. And there are scenes and interactions in that movie that are not happening in any of the safe movies. And the fact that they got that writer to do it, that's what gave me a lot of confidence in this X-Men project. Because there's just a scene along with Red Guardian and Helena when she's going over all the trauma that she's been through and why she is what she is. And that scene with Bob at the end where he's fighting the Void, and the Void is taunting him, saying, "You're always going to be alone," and they all gather around him and let him know he's not alone. I don't know. It's all subjective. Not saying your opinion's wrong. I just don't know what you saw to come to that conclusion. Let's see. X-Men movies will bring the hype. That's all that matters. Yeah, I think everything that's going to happen post Secret Wars is going to bring the hype. But I mean, we're in the hype now. Well, it's kind of your fault for trying to find a masterpiece. Not my fault. I think the word masterpiece is overused. To be honest with you, I'm starting to think that the word masterpiece is overused and it's misused. Let's see. I'm happy with Jean in it. Yeah, there's too many, but don't care. Love that suit. Yeah, I could have done without her in it. It didn't kill the movie for me. It didn't hurt the movie for me. But it's like I just gave you a list of reasons why I would have gone with someone else. The movie would have made the exact dollar amount with if you would have stuck Wilson Fisk in there, if you'd have stuck this version of Northern Norman Osborn, no matter who you stuck in the spot that damage her and Damage Control ate up, $927 million wouldn't have mattered. It was just, so, you know, they made their decisions and they have time to roll this out. So I'm not really there was at no point where I'm like, oh fuck, I'm sorry, I rented out this theater. No, I was fine with it. There are too many, but I care enough for that suit. Performance is kind of getting.
By the way, going back real quick to Thunderbolts, because Yelena makes an appearance in this when Peter's kind of trying to figure out who this, mind control antagonist is, and it's a really funny scene because he says, meet me in my office, and the office turns out to be and she says, yeah, so you get to enjoy a relaxing sulk, and I get to see that you don't have any weapons, and so he has to go in there, and he has to take the suit off, so he just stays in his underwear with a mask on, and goes, and yeah, it's a like one thing I've said before, like the MCU, like I think around Guardians, like they really started like really pouring. They really started overemphasizing the comic relief across the franchise, and and it's with a character like Spider-Man. I mean, like a part of his identity is, he's a quipster. He tells, he has a lot of one-liners, tells a lot of jokes, and something that did with this is like this really, I think, kind of had that balance I'm looking for. Where it's like it's got humor, it's got comic relief, but not to the point of being overwhelming. Or like a scene like that, is a good example of that, where it's like it's handled in in a way where it's like it tickles your funny bone, but it's it's not there just because we have to meet like a laugh quota or a one-liner quota because we're Marvel. So
I didn't like
the
way
I'll
they
be right
turned
back.
Gene into. Yeah, I didn't like the way they turned Gene into a villain. Well, I asked the same question. I mean, not to the point where it damaged the movie for me, but I'm like, as I'm watching this movie unfold, I'm like, you know. I always said the Avengers deleted two Thanos from two different universes. I gotta be some type of repercussion from that. Yeah, and the way they went back. Remember, they went back in time and fucked up history to do what they did, and Captain America went back again. So I'm assuming that everything that they did in Endgame caused variants and things to happen, and something happened and throughout history that has made it to where that we have the Doctor Doom that we have. Something happened that the one of the Avengers or all the Avengers has done to cause him to be what he is. And we'll kind of find that out later on. Yeah, I'm a big fan of just the natural rep shooters for me too. I'm with you there. Yes, I got to see Spider-Man, Incredible Hulk, Punisher, one big screen together. I always wanted to see that. So yeah, and it didn't really oversaturate. That was my biggest concern when I heard about all these characters that were going to be in this movie, is that they would oversaturate it. And I'm like, I finally got a Spider-Man movie. I think when it came to those characters, I think that they were in there just the right amount of time, and everything came back to Peter the way it was written. So I was happy there. William, if they take away the Netflix characters or change them with that audience. Okay, William, if they do take away the Netflix characters or change them, will that audience for these characters leave? I don't know. And to be honest with you, I don't know if that audience was big enough to make a difference if they did. Remember, we were talking about, as people, me and Brad and you guys, we watched this show back in the Netflix era. But I think we've always mistaken in thinking that because we love those characters and we love those stories, that a whole bunch of people saw them. And really, I'm finding out not as many people saw those shows and know those characters as much as we think we do. This film is going to top 1.7, 1.8 billion. I mean, damn. I don't see anything coming out that's going to put any halt to it. It's August. You got back to school, which might affect it, but a lot of that money is front loaded. I mean, if you're talking about 1.7, 1.8 billion, you're already at practically a billion. I think once they adjust those numbers in a couple more days, I think for some people, school starts this week, and some people, school starts the following week. So you may have a full-on week without school to stack up some more money. It's very possible. People have to understand that iconic heroes. They have a brand new day. The Punisher, Spider-Man, Hulk. MCU does take risk and has faith in both. Yeah, and that's been that's the biggest difference. Not to turn this into a DC thing, but that's been the biggest difference since its inception. Is belief in what you're doing, knowing what you're doing, and believing in it, and not letting the chatter fuck you up. And making movies, not sitting around the card table and saying, what can we do to make this $1 billion movie? I don't think they do that. I think people who run the MCU and people who make the movies sit around and say, what can we do to make this the best thing that we possibly are doing right now? What can we do to blow the audience away and captivate them? And by the way, if we make this kind of money in the long run, that's great. But we're not doing it. We're not doing it with that as being the goal. Whereas DC, once Marvel made their money, they only focused on the goal because they didn't know what they were doing, and that really hurt their universe. Okay, we're talking to Clint. That's why the movie's making bank because of iconic superheroes and a brand new day. Well, it's Spider-Man. Spider-Man is. I mean, this was an easy billion, no matter what. I mean, it's Spider-Man. Chappie, William, and Brad. Dr. Ryan Gosling playing Ghost Rider. I generally, and I don't mean this to be flippant, guys. I can't think of too many characters that I could care less about than Ghost Rider. And that's growing up as a kid. That's reading them in the comic books. That's the new version that came out in 1990. That's all the versions of Midnight to all of that. I can't think of too many characters that come to mind that I could care less about than Ghost Rider on any format anywhere. So when they announced that at Comic-Con, I'm like, yeah, okay, great. I will believe that it's happening, because when you get into these occult-like characters that are not Doctor Strange, so far we're outside of Doctor Strange, we're 0 for 1. So who knows? As far as a proper Ghost Rider, canceled? I give you a Ghost Rider, but I'm just not a big fan of Ghost Rider. I could never. I don't hate the character. I just don't care. And I like Ryan Gosling as an actor. I've grown to respect him as an actor since 2017. But somebody accused me of downplaying that character because I don't like Ghost Rider, and I don't care about Ghost Rider, none, in no way, shape, or form. So it's really hard to get excited about an IP I just don't care about. So good luck to Ryan Gosling. I wish he'd have been playing a more meaningful Marvel character, but this is what he chose. So. It's tied with No Way Home. Yeah, I can respect people saying this is the best Spider-Man movie they've ever seen. It's not for me, but I can see it. I felt that energy when we and it's a lot easier to gauge an energy when you invited all the people to that screening. But people they popped out of their seats after that end credit scene, and that was good. And they were generally happy, and I was caught up in it, but I've seen so many movies and seen so much material that I knew why I was watching this movie for 3/4 of the way in, where I was probably going to end up putting this movie as far as because you just know when you're watching something and where it is. People need to let Sam Raimi Spider-Man go. It's a brand new day. Oh my goodness, they're never going to let Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies are iconic. You're never going to get people to let go of those. Spider-Man 2 is a better movie than Spider-Man Brand New Day for me. Spider-Man 2 is one of the best superhero sequels. Might be one of the best movie sequels of all time. And Sam Raimi's original Spider-Man was you're not. Anybody who's holding on to Sam Raimi is not letting go of Sam Raimi anytime soon.
But still, actually, funny you mentioned Sam Raimi because there's an ongoing. Not just with the Raimi series, there's an ongoing disappointment I have with the entire Spider-Man franchise cinematically, and it is from the soundtrack of Spider-Man 2002, the Aerosmith cover of the Spider-Man theme. Why has that not been in a movie yet? Why has that not been? Just imagine a montage of him webbing up bad guys with the Aerosmith cover of that. I'm going to put that in the chat for you guys to hear what I'm talking about, because this is like...
I don't know why the fuck you're putting that in the chat, but anyway. Spider-Man is not indicative of no fatigue. Cinematic universes are genre bigger than just Spider-Man. Will the audience come out for those? Yeah, but that's the problem, though, is they didn't. When the A-listers weren't headlining the MCU during all these phases, they weren't going to come out for these. If you didn't bracket Captain Marvel in between the A-listers, you were not going to get anybody to see that movie. If you put Rocket Raccoon and Friends in a distant, and not in the middle of the Infinity Saga, then you were not going to get people to see that movie. So that's not fatigue, because it's never been that way. It's now the box office and everything else started going a different direction when you didn't have those bridge type characters to go in. And when you had those characters, those movies made money and nobody was complaining about fatigue. But when you put out support character movies without the A-listers, which is what you weren't doing when no one was even mentioning the term superhero fatigue, then nobody went to go see them. I mean, that's just math right there. And Supergirl, that's just bad management. That's bad management. You put out a support character as your second movie. That has nothing to do with Superman, superhero fatigue. That's just bad. That's a bad call. Gene, I'm gonna take a couple more Spider-Man, and then we're gonna go into this other issue. Jean Grey heading in a damaged skull, becoming a bad guy was the weakest part of the movie. It really probably, I'd have to agree there. I think that she was a little bit too much like Carrie or something from that one Denzel Washington movie where he's chasing Lou Diamond Phillips' character, just body hopping. I think that so what the DC needs to do, I think they should put Marvel out of their head. And if I'm James Gunn, and you sit down with the investors and say, listen, this is what we're gonna do, which he probably should have already done before. If you guys want to catch up to Marvel, then I need to resign here and now. Because the only way DCU is ever going to become that type of thing is if they focus inward. You cannot drive someone else's car. They're in the driver's seat already. You got to drive your own. You can't fly someone else's rocket ship. You're going in two different directions. The first executive, upper executive, above the studio head here, that figures out that DC being DC is its strength, that person's going to win. And until they do that, the mentality of always chasing Marvel it's going to hurt them. So yeah. Some of you guys, I'm skipping over some of the questions.
Here's the Aerosmith cover of the Spider-Man theme I mentioned, by the way. If you guys want to, this awesome rendition of the Spider-Man theme.
Relevant to the price of change.
Yeah, it's irrelevant. If you're not
X-Men 97 is on fire. I gave up on it. So yeah, I'm glad you guys are enjoying it. Like I said, I have to respectfully disagree. I forgot what his name is. I love that movie. That's one of the most rewatchable Marvel Cinematic Universal movies that I can put my eyes on. I love that movie. But that, you know what? I'm not going to really knock him for his. Let's see. I think the Guardians of the Galaxy trauma is completely different than the trauma that they do in Thunderbolts, because the Thunderbolts is trauma is real world happening to them right there and then. It's dealing with addiction. It's dealing with abandonment. It's dealing with a lot of that stuff is happening in Guardians of the Galaxy, but it doesn't have that real world feel that it did in Thunderbolts. That's just my opinion. All right, so there's this other thing that's been happening. Let me see if I can pull up these. And I've been tagged in so much shit. Damn it. So recently, Kevin Feige gave his interview about Blade, that he's regrets and all that. We commented on that. I commented on that before he even said it. And then Mahershala Ali came out and basically said what I've been saying for about 4 years.
What was pretty much
they didn't want to do it
for like 4 years.
Yeah, they didn't want to do it. I'm going to go even further than that. I don't think they ever wanted to do it. I don't think it ever fit into what they were doing. The only reason why it got any momentum is Chapek. And once Kevin Feige got full control back with Disney Studios, once Chapek was gone, Kevin Feige went back to doing the type of things. I think it was a mistake to have that going on in 2019, given where you were at with the MCU. For him to come out in Comic-Con 2019, and do that that was, and okay, great, you did that. You did that. You knew right then and there that you weren't going to do that movie. So you didn't have a situation to where you thought or had any desire to do a solo Blade movie, which would have been a fucking horrible idea for where they were at in the MCU right there and then. Not to bring the character about, but to focus on that. I've already said, if you were going to bring Mahershala Ali, and this should have happened years ago, I think it's too late.
And by the way, this writes off probably him being in Doomsday or Secret Wars,
unless he's lying, unless we're getting played, we could be getting played.
Which that would be, admittedly, that would be a way to pick up the fumble. This would be a pretty awesome
and then, by the way, disclaimer, because we could be getting played like a bunch of jackasses, which that would be great because that means I like Mahershala Ali. I don't like the thought of having his.
That would be. Imagine if we go see Doomsday in December and turns out he's in it and has like a gotcha moment. Yeah.
I told you. I think him and And by the way, guys, stop it with Wesley Snipes. He's 64 and he looks 64. Unless you're going to do a old man Blade, then we're not. That's a non-starter. That's one of the dumbest ideas I've ever heard. I'm trying to bring up. Wow, did I? Okay, I muted it. Hold on. Let me find out. But the Blade thing. The Blade thing brought up some of the other characters that have had things that were that are being canceled or sidelined. And on its face, you think, "Oh, that's racist. What's going on there?" And then when you look at the projects that we're talking about. Let's see. So let me bring up this one. This is from a article in Complex. It's not under a paywall, but it's. So I'll go ahead and give.
And that's still, by the way, I just looked at his Wikipedia. That's still his photo there on Wikipedia. Is him announcing Blade at Comic-Con.
Trey Austin. I'm giving you credit, Trey Austin, because this is the article that I'm using. But I don't really need to read the article because we pretty much know. All right, so. You can see my screen there. All right, I've been black for 1, 2, 3, 4 my entire life. So having racist barbs or having situations turn on you like that, nothing new to any of us. We all live it in different ways, different places. And so it's not like I'm naive to think that racism doesn't exist. But I also think when we aim that laser, we gotta be careful and make sure that that's what it is. Here are 4 projects that, long before the coincidence of them being pushed aside in any given cluster of time, what have I said about each and every one of these fucking projects, except for Wonder Man? All right, now Wonder Man was only supposed to be the one series. Now, yes, they announced it for a second series after it got success, Emmys and all that, but they put it into the Emmys of the miniseries, and that's how those guys are getting nominated. So they have to actually retract that because they changed it. Now, when you have the concept of something that was only going to be the one, and then you change your mind, but that showrunner, the person who worked on that, they have actually got him doing other things. I think he's doing 2 other things. And now it just comes down to priority. So racism, when it comes to him, they cast it. They literally went all the way to cast a traditionally white character as a black guy, and we're about to go into pre-production of season 2. They just reevaluated it. We've discussed Blade. Blade in a vacuum on its own wasn't, and it's not just me. You guys can go ahead and fill up my message box and call me a Blade hater. I'm not a Blade hater, and I think the fact that you guys think that the Blade franchise opened up its legs and gave birth to everything fucking comic book movies is absolutely absurd. But that's for another stream. I enjoyed those movies for what they were. I love Mahershala Ali and just about anything he's been in. I didn't think it was time for a Blade movie. I didn't think it fit what they were doing when they announced it, and they've done nothing in the interim to make that make any sense. I'm very skeptical that you're going to get, you're not going to get delays with Ryan Gosling and everything else. If you can delay a 2-time Academy Award winner, Ryan Gosling's, you can delay him. You can find ways to not do that project if it doesn't fit what you're doing. Although I think they have a better plan going forward than they did then. But I had always thought, why are you doing a solo Blade movie in the midst of what you're doing now? Why is he showing up in Eternals of all places? It tells me then they didn't have a plan for the character. If you were going, there's one character in a lot of all those useless cameos that were in Multiverse of Madness. There's a character that could have ate up a quarter of that movie, and I wouldn't have minded. I would not have minded saying, hey, even Fossil Blade in that movie. That would have been perfect. He's a Doctor Strange guest character, would have been perfect. They didn't want to do it. The Blade movie didn't happen they never were going to do it. And I think the only reason it even got as far as it did because they had respect for at that time, 1-time Academy Award winner, but they had respect and they just couldn't say no. Sometimes the best answer is no. And they never established vampirism. They never established any of that stuff, all of which could have been done in a Doctor Strange type situation. And if you are still going to bring in Blade, even if you get a different actor, it still doesn't need to be a solo movie. The third Doctor Strange movie, he needs to be in that movie. And it's not just me speaking. It's they spoke by not doing this movie in the 7-8 years that they had this announced. They spoke. Captain America, Sam Wilson, listen. For the same reason, as much as you guys wish, and to the Tooth Fairy and every other deity that you're going to get Batman Beyond, the same reasons you're not getting Batman Beyond are the same reasons why I was shocked when I heard Brave New World, was being made and it was being done with Sam as Cap. I love the story that they presented with Sam Wilson, Anthony Mackie becoming Captain America. I'm one of the few, I guess, that love Falcon and Winter Soldier. I loved it. I love the story of the Super Serum program that they had along the Tuskegee Project. I love the fact, I love the speech at the end where he says, I'm a black man wearing the shield. And there's a million people that hate me for that, but there's nothing. I loved everything about that. But even I wouldn't have made the investment of putting him in a solo movie, because to the audience, not just the general audience outside, hanging around, the audience that you have cultivated since you brought Chris Evans in as Captain America, you have cultivated and you have conditioned that audience that Steve Rogers is Captain America. Period. You can tell temporary stories and stuff in a comic book or a graphic novel or in a miniseries. But when you're going to full-on feature-length film, $185 million budget type of thing, Steve Rogers is Captain America. When you see him again, when you saw him in that trailer, I don't know if you guys saw the trailer, when that hammer comes back to him and it's Chris Evans and it's Steve Rogers, that crowd is going to blow the roof off of that building in the theaters. Steve Rogers is Captain America, not because I say so, and history has said so, but because that is the audience they have developed 2 generations of audience, and that is their Captain America. And anything other than Steve Rogers, no matter what he looks like, is always going to be perceived as second fiddle, and it's going to hurt your audience. Ironheart is probably the most what the fuck out of all these, because I never understood. I thought it was a kind of cool character in a movie that I was really just trying to get through when it came to Wakanda Forever. That movie was just, I had the feeling of dread because I was watching a funeral, that I was just trying to get through the movie. I didn't see anything about her character that said, let's do a project focused on this character. I thought if you were ever going to use that character again, you would need to have a couple more guest appearances and stuff like this. And even Disney at the point in time, towards the end of the project, they're like, we're just going to dump this, on its own. So if you look at everything on its face and you just put them all on a square like this and say, hey, you know what? Wow, that's not a coincidence. I think it you're just completely dismissing the individual circumstances that each of these projects came up through. And if there were some racism here, I would just say, fuck these guys, what are they doing? But each of these series are canceled or sidelines. And then one of them put that's not Ironheart, that's Monica Rambeau, but you're gonna see her again. The other one I had, let me scroll down, had Ironheart in it. I don't feel like scrolling down, but Ironheart was one of the ones too. But Monica Rambeau, you're gonna see her again, and even her. Where were you going to see her on her own? She was a guest character when you first saw her, and she's a B-lister in the movie that she was in the show. So where is she? I mean, I'm thinking Secret Wars, but I don't know if that's a fair assessment to say that, all these things were canceled for that particular reason, when they all had lengthy reasons why. To be honest with you, some of them should have happened in the first place. And those same people that you're saying, well, not that this article is saying that, but the sentiment that I was getting when I was going through some of these articles and posts, those same people are about to do a Black Panther movie. And the Black Panther movie is going to be high profile and big budget. Granted, I don't agree the circumstances and with the decisions that they've made, but that's notwithstanding. They brought out David Johnson, a top tier actor right now, an up and coming actor. They're putting him in the role. And if all that's true, then if they're sidelining Black characters, they're about to give one of the top spotlights you can ever give. So somebody's gonna have to make that make sense to me. So yeah, that's where I'm at with these. Let me look at some of the chat. This is how I looked at it. This is coming from someone, every Black experience is going to be different. So I don't expect another Black person to watch this and feel the same way.
And yeah, this is already the first I've heard of there being any kind of accusation of racism on Marvel's part, as far as like these specific projects being canceled or postponed or characters being sidelined. That I guess I kind of slid under my radar, where it's like the idea that all of them collectively would that added up to racism. And yeah, I think I don't know, okay. Man. I think William kind of put it pretty succinctly there. So
Armor Wars, if you are doing Armor anything without Tony Stark, what's going on? That you're putting yourself in the same situation, and they're like, well, they sign like Rhodey. Rhodey is War Machine. Rhodey was a complimentary character. Yeah, he's got his own comic every now and then. He's a sidekick, complimentary character. You only care about Rhodey because of Iron Man, because of Tony Stark. Now we've established that until we get to Secret Wars, that Tony Stark is not going to be in any of this stuff. So all this history in this tree that you built around Tony Stark, the general audience is going to be like, "Where's Iron Man?" First time that they see any of this stuff. I don't know if you can tell the proper story, because Iron Wars is about Tony fighting the government. That's and some of his villains that are misusing and copying and doing all kinds of crazy shit with his armor, and it's him doing the fighting. So my only question is, why wasn't this thought process happening when these projects were conceived? Because if you're thinking right, some of these projects never get announced. I personally would have never done Brave New World. And I like Anthony Mackie in that role. I like the story he has to tell. But I have to understand that I can't do that, and at the same time have developed my audience over the last 15, 16 years that Steve Rogers is Captain America. And then wonder why not as many people didn't go see A Brave New World. But no, they didn't go see it because he's Black, but they'll go see Black Panther. Hell, they went in hundreds of millions of dollars to go see a Black Panther without the Black Panther in it. So I don't know where that all comes together.
Aaron's pretty incredulous about about it. And actually kind of to kind of follow up to everything you laid out there, it's and just to kind of play devil's advocate a little bit on this.
For the super chat, but I adjusted.
It's like from, I mean, I guess asking, William laying out his thoughts as a black man, like going off of that, what would you have to see, or what would indicate racism as the reasoning behind this from your perspective?
Well, the problem with that is I know I had already come to my reasoning that some of these projects should have never happened to begin with before we even got here. Yeah. So what would I need to see in general? I would need to see, I would need to see something in regards to them even getting to the point where they're even casting and doing these projects to begin with.
Well, because one that and I mean, it's the ship has sailed on this, but like if the MCU up to this point had not had any prominent black characters, or if it had been like nothing but like white characters, and these were the like first announced or first like black characters that were announced to be in MCU movies, and it's like then every one of them they get announced and they just start dropping like flies. It's like then it's like, okay, then I think you've got more of a basis for that. If you didn't have if you didn't have like a Black Panther, if you didn't have if you didn't have anything established within the franchise to indicate, okay, it's just nothing but, if the franchise were just nothing but white people, and you had these projects of black characters that just like kind of get this close to being realized and then get canceled, I think I could see more of an argument there.
I could see now if they never got the chance to even see the light of day. They got to some of these projects, even though I don't think some of them should have got to see the light of day.
And Blade also, there was at one point, I think it was like the second or third director. It got within weeks of starting to
it got the costume, it got a wardrobe that ended up on Centers.
Yeah.
All right, I didn't forget when Kevin Feige denied a R-rated Blade at Comic-Con, which it wouldn't have been. However, he gave Ryan Reynolds and Wolverine R-rated MCU movies. He didn't give them anything. Deadpool was already an R-rated franchise that was established by Fox, and he's never Ryan Reynolds was never going to do it, and that was established before Kevin Feige had control of that IP. Logan was a Fox movie that was unassociated from the MCU, so neither one of these movies were MCU direct. So in characters, but if a character that Kevin Feige brings about or develops, I can't believe that he's going to be doing R-rated stuff because of he wants to make the kind of money he made this weekend. Let's see. At the point they announced projects to fill the schedule. Okay, but if they just filled all white projects, then if we're going in that route. Now, if you want to blame them for being at a time disorganized and overreaching and overthinking themselves in some of these projects, that you could say that they're guilty. I mean, you also had different management involved as far as like Chapek and different people that were surrounding Feige. So maybe then, but when I heard that Ironheart was happening, and like I said, the first thing was like, okay, why? And people were always like, we shouldn't have to ask why you do projects. You should just do the projects. No, you're spending other people's money. You're risking people's jobs. You're risking people's credibility. You need to know who the fuck is going to be watching this stuff, or you need to have a good idea. And it's basically comes down to this: if you're not asking that question, you're making a product and you don't even know who the buyer is. That's backwards. They're doing Ryan Reynolds as Ghost Rider in a heartbeat, but that's not going to be an R-rated movie. And here's the thing, though, the difference between and if the Ghost Rider movie happens, the difference is he came up with the idea in his own time, and when he was ready to do it. The entire time that Blade was on the docket for him, he didn't want to do it. Coming out, how hard is it to do a Blade movie? It's not really hard. It's if you are running a universe, you're the executive producer. By the way, we're talking about the most successful executive producer in the history of entertainment, in the history of Hollywood. So his decisions kind of have a little bit more weight than in my opinion, or it's not the degree of difficulty; it's the desire to do it. And if you are going in this direction with your universe, your cinematic universe, and this movie takes you this direction, you're going to go in the direction that you've already established. And that's what I said years ago: is that this doesn't fit in what he's doing, and now they just admitted it didn't fit in what they're going to be doing. You just to make a movie, just to make a movie. If you're in the business of selling clusters of movies like this, and you don't want that outlier out there, you don't have to do it. Main characters shouldn't be introduced. So you see that is Doctor Strange movies bombed. They both made very.
Well, I mean, you don't know the movie's going to bomb until you release it either.
And true, but by the time that you released Doctor Strange Part 2, you knew that movie wasn't going to bomb because Doctor Strange had been
the Deadpool and Daredevil thing again.
But Doctor Strange had been a pivotal part of everything we had seen, right down the end game. So you knew you had an established A-lister right there in him. So putting a Blade character in a movie like that would not have been a risk, and it would have been appropriate, but. Well, so no, this is, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with Sam. I love the story. It's better in the comics too. There's a difference between me being okay with Sam Wilson as Captain America in a TV show or in an ensemble movie like that's going to make the billions and bajillions anyway, and then taking a risk. And it wouldn't matter if it was the Black Captain America. I'm sorry, it could be Bucky. There's no fucking way. As much as I love Sebastian Stan, as much as I think he's a great actor, and I love him as Bucky Buchanan, there's no way in all fuck am I making a Captain America movie with him as Captain America. There's no way. The lenders, the people who put the money together, they should be like, are you out of your mind? We like the character too. I like it too. I love him in Thunderbolts. He's even better in Thunderbolts. But as far as brand name loyalty and what we've developed as Marvel Cinematic Universe, when we do a Captain America solo movie, it's Steve Rogers. So it really doesn't have anything to do with him being black, in my opinion. It's Steve Rogers is Captain America. They've established that. So it's hard to go against the grain that they've established. You might want to wait until Beyond the Spider-Verse comes out because he's a big part of that. I don't see it happening outside of animation, but I think your best shot for $29.99 getting that would be after this trilogy is over because that character really shines in Across the Spider-Verse. I love Falcon and the Winter Soldier. There's a lot of people who didn't like that. I like Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I lad. I love that corny speech he gives at the end. Now the enemy is weak. Ultimatum smash. Yeah, but the whole plight of him being Captain America and him being the symbol of America and forcing people to include people who look like him and me into the fabric of America, whether they want to or not. I think that was the heart of the story, and I thought it worked in a miniseries. But as far as trying to stretch that over, but to be honest with you, not just that, but it just wasn't a very good movie either. It was a Hulk sequel that I never wanted to see. All right. William and Brad, thoughts on the new Black Panther? I think I already addressed this. Going to be about Black Panther's son. Is it the right thing moving forward, especially with the character? I said I don't want to be repeating myself over and over again, but you can go back and scroll back earlier on the screen. I say absolutely not. I love the actor. I don't love the fact that he's playing substitute T'Challa. And I think it's doubling down on a bad decision. I understand where the decision came from. I understand it came from a good place, and the people who root for this are behind that. We're not evil people. But I think it was, nonetheless, I think it was the wrong decision. And I think if they were to extend beyond Secret Wars, I think they are doubling down on a bad decision. What do you think about that, Brad, since he asked you as well?
Yeah, pretty much the same thing. It's like I'm with David Johnson. It's like I really dug him in both Alien Romulus and the Long Walk. So I'm happy to see him, get a big shot at a superhero, big tentpole role like this. But yeah, it'd be especially if you are doing a universe reset. I mean, like, there's not a lot of reason why you couldn't like just make him T'Challa from the jump.
Yeah. I just didn't find me. I gave it a shot and it just wasn't. I don't have anything against the character, and I think she's a perfect piece to a story, but a story, revolving around her just didn't grab me. So. Yeah. Anywhere Captain Marvel is going to be in that and the girl Milani, whatever her name is, anywhere you see them, she's part of that package, for better or for worse. So I don't know why she was in that, but I did see other people bringing her in. Let's see. Okay. I think I got both your super chats. So enough. I hope. Yeah, it has to be Iron Man. It has to be. You can try it, but it's there are certain things and Marvel sort of, to their credit, has created their own problem because the brands that they have created are so strong that it's inescapable now. It's inescapable. You conditioned your audience that certain characters are certain characters. And you'll have to deal with that fallout when it's time to replace these characters. That's why I think it's going to be a while before you see a new Captain America. I think it's going to be a while before you see a new Thor or any of these characters as they decide to go that route. And that's why it's great that they have the X-Men, that they have Fantastic Four, they have Spider-Man, and all the rogues gallery that goes with those characters, because it gives them time for a couple generations to get in there and look on these things a lot more fondly than they do if you just tried to replace a character immediately. Dude, my ideal Spider-Man Brand New Day is that it's an origin story for the Goblin. And I know we did that back with Hot Wheels and William Dafoe, but explicitly because of the way No Way Home went down, I have an MCU Norman Osborn and Peter, and he has his friend. He meets his friend there, and Peter knows how this is going to turn out, and there's nothing he can do about it. And a lot of the story was about Peter trying to change the course of history, and it's not going to happen. Destiny is always going to happen. Norman Osborn is always going to be the Green Lantern. He's always going to be put Peter's people in danger.
Maybe the Green Lantern.
Fuck. I edit the shit out of this show. It's the colors that are fucking me up, man. But he's always going to be the Green
Lantern. Lanterns and movies? Holy shit!
I got lanterns on my head, dude. I can't wait to.
Yeah.
I got the rings.
Yeah, but you do that with this. You do that with the
Goblin. Yeah, I don't think I'll transpose Goblin then. I think I'll be too hyped up. But yeah, that's what I would have done. But you know what? They chose Jean Grey. I didn't hurt the movie for me. I just was like, how are we doing this? Opinion: Feige canceling season 2 of Inhumans. It wasn't a very good show. Sorry. Listen, I didn't. Unpopular opinion, don't care. I didn't think Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was that great, and that show got a long time. So be happy with some of these shows. One of your ABC shows got a fucking legacy. You know what I mean? These characters, besides Blade, are obscure. And to be honest with you, to the MCU universe, to the roughly, say you're 38 years old, even that Blade is going to be obscure. Most of the people that are MCU median age right now know who he is because of Deadpool and Wolverine. Most of them, and you got a lot of other people who, like I said, that will have revisionist history. And everybody, they may have known, but they had no interest in the character. That's not from their era. But when you bring them in, just like a lot of the people, Jennifer Gardner as Elektra, they're like, 2003, they were in diapers, or in grade school. They weren't seeing that movie. But Deadpool and Wolverine allowed them to, hey, who is this? But, maybe I hope they earn Wesley Snipes a little bit more money, royalties. I don't even know if he gets any royalties anymore. But yeah, I think they were all obscure. So, yeah, I mean, I think that each and one of these characters could have thrived if they had been put in the proper situation. Except for Wonder Man, because once you plan on a one-shot, it's really hard to I was surprised to hear about a season 2. And the way Wonder Man ended, to be honest with you, I thought we were fine where we were at. Would I have watched the season 2? Yeah, because I enjoyed season 1. But the guy who, I forgot the dude who was working on that, he just got another assignment. And he was already working on an assignment. So I think they just prioritized it. Would I've gone to see the Blade Ruby? Sure, why not? But I mean, these aren't like you see how people are acting towards Spider-Man. These aren't event level characters. They just aren't. William Marvel is even more racist. Canceling King down. Yeah. Somebody came into the store and tried to be like, hey, they got Jonathan Majors too. I'm like, oh, time out. Now you barely had me on with this other stuff because I don't think it. He went upside some woman's head and then told her not to go to the hospital when she could have been concussed or worse, and did it in text, and then started comparing himself to Martin Luther. I'm like, okay, they invested in Jonathan Majors. If they were raising it, now, granted, I think they would have downsized the King storyline even without him. I don't think they would have completely got rid of it because, to be honest with you, and now I think about it going forward, the story that they're going to tell with Doom, I still think they're going to use Kang, but just not to the point. Trying to explain Kang to anybody hurts my head, and I know the story implicitly. I think Kang became too big and sprawling and just too difficult to really to explain, whereas when Dr. Doom comes in, it's going to be simple. Now, you'll still see Kang. You won't see Jonathan Majors, but you can recast Kang. That's no problem. But yeah, I think that was a mitigating circumstance. Yeah, experimental, but nothing that really, if it went away, you shouldn't be like, I can't believe they did that. I can't believe it got anything. I don't know what his budget's going to be. I am not 100% sure about what his budget's going to be. I mean, I know you got to do a flaming head. I'll be honest with you, I have no feelings about that movie. Because, to be honest with you, I think if I woke up a day or two and I saw, this production has been pushed down to so and so, I'm like, oh, was it Ghost Rider? Nah, wow, what a surprise. I love Sam Moore. Bucky is awesome, but Sam or Steve, mostly Steve. Yeah, but yeah, and I like them all. I like all their stories. But now I'm going to sell this to my public after training him for nearly 2 decades. Steve Rogers is Captain America. It's like I said, we haven't gotten a Batman Beyond not by accident, guys. You guys can tell me I'm wrong all you want. Fine. You know, a Batman that is not Bruce Wayne, that is DOA. At least on the cinematic level. You could probably have another couple comics. You could probably have another cartoon even. Maybe even a video game. But as far as like somebody dropping 150 mil to up to 200 mil on a Batman that's not Bruce Wayne, them geriatric fools are being like, who? Terry, who? So yeah. I think I got your super chat. It'd be hilarious if you saw David Hasselhoff. And then they're talking to each other. And David Hasselhoff's the one that says motherfucker and not. So, I mean. Also, Winter Soldier as Captain America makes sense since people are seeing the killer's face and their loved ones as a symbol of America. Yeah, they've done excellent stuff with him in the comics, and they did excellent, stuff with him in on MCU and MTV. But it's just a matter of it's just a hard up. If you're going to do a movie with a headliner in it, the headliner needs to be the OG. I don't know how much money this new Black Panther movie is going to make. I mean, are people just going to go see it because it's Black Panther and we actually have a Black Panther? Not sure. Or is it going to hurt? Is it going to struggle because of it's not the OG T'Challa? So. No, the humans got their mutates, but that's fine. I mean, they exist in the MCU. You may even see them in Secret Wars, but I know Feige was never really a big fan of that show. I thought it was great too. But I wasn't expecting as I do when they announced the season 2. I wasn't expecting that. I was not expecting that. I don't really think so, to be honest with you. But in order for you to understand why that's not true, you would have to understand the nature of Kang, and I just don't think they wanted to do the homework. Because the Kang you met in Quantum Mania was not the Kang that you would ultimately meet in Kang Dynasty. So, yeah. Omega, what are you singing in the chat? John Campion talked about Amanda being built by Peter Easy. Your thoughts on the current mutants and cancer? Well, cancer sucks. Yeah, this was brought up before. I don't know if they're going to transfer those inhibitors over to the X-Men saga, given that so many other things that they're going to be going up against. Every villain that they're going to go has that technology already. Could they do it? Sure. They put Jean Grey in a movie that I don't think she fit in. So I could be wrong. I can't tell the future. All right, guys. I think that's where we're going to go ahead and wrap. Wonder Man didn't reveal if he's a mutant or he received it. Well, I know if they're going by comic book canon, he was part of the RAND project, and they merged every cell in his body to an ambient energy. So he's basically living energy. When he takes his sunglasses off, though, and in the comic, he's got red eyes. So yeah. All right, guys. Thank you for being here. Thank you for dealing with the weird, wacky schedule that I've had to deal with at Comic-Con. I think we kind of went overboard. We can talk about it a little bit. Did I post a lot of? I don't know if I posted. I didn't. You know what? I didn't upload all my pictures from Comic-Con. Fuck. Anybody got any questions about SDDC that I didn't cover? You, Brad?
No, what?
You didn't want to come be part of the dream this year? Hold on. I don't think I think I kind of went over my topics here, but you know what? I did put it in the. I didn't put it on the profile pic, so technically I'm clear. Oh, by the way, here's I showed you guys this last night. Or did I show you? No, I didn't have a stream last night, but here's my little Spiderman experience. Cosplayer. Yeah, and the dude dressed as Spider-Man is amazing. Here we go. It's the John Romita pose for anybody who's I did not I should have uploaded and did a photo dump. You know what? I'm gonna do a photo dump. Yeah, it's mostly just pictures of me doing stupid shit like this. Just drink. I drink a ton of coffee and a lot of the very expensive pretzels. Now, one of the things that the most important thing from Comic-Con for me was, as far as like the Hall H, is Blade Runner 2099, and I played that trailer, and then Lanterns. A lot of crowd movement. A lot of crowd. The fallout was a lot of people still angry over the whole Hall H thing. I mean, every group that I've been in, people are just, they should move Hall H to Petco Park, and then other people, they can't move the Petco. Nobody will go. Nobody want to go outside for Petco Park, and they better do something. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't be surprised if Hall H just gradually went away. And people are like, well SDDC, San Diego Comic-Con is nothing without Hall H. It's 6,500 people, dude. Hall H could not be happening. The years where Hall H didn't have a Marvel panel, that fucking floor was packed. Now, they're going to have to come up with something in general when it comes to, if they're going to keep it in, because people are throwing at me, well, they kept Comic-Con and they're going to keep it there till 2030, so that means it's going to be the fifth. 2030 will be here when you roll over tomorrow. Time fucking flies, guys. 3 years? That's not even a presidential administration. That's not even a term in high school. It's nothing. That is not nearly enough time, given the problems that Comic-Con has in San Diego. They're going to have to get with these hotels. They're going to have to get with somebody to increase the capacity, because the price of doing Comic-Con is going up. It is not going down. Every year that they do this nonprofit organization does this, the price goes up. And unless you want to regress, then you got to keep the same thing, going, the same attractions going. But for the 130,000 people that were there this weekend, there's another 40 to 75,000 people that couldn't get in, that had no chance of getting tickets. And all the exclusive merchandise that you teased in there, yeah, that's sold out because you got a bunch of scammers with fake bracelets and shit that came in there and snuck in there. But what about for the people who want to buy it? I mean, that's money on the table. So a lot of the fallout is about that. I think there's fallout when it comes to DC, because this year, even though Marvel did a panel, that panel sucked, in my opinion. In comparison to Marvel panels I've been to, in comparison to their last big one, which was 2024, one of the reasons why I didn't go to the 2026 panel is because I just got that feeling that they weren't going to come close to outdoing that. So why am I going to do the same thing and drive myself into exhaustion for a bunch of panels on Hall H on Saturday that I didn't want to see, and he had to kept you there. So, and I would have spent 12 hours overnight, another 7 or 8 in line that day, and then all day in the hall itself just for a 31-minute panel. So during that panel, they introduced the new Black Panther, and they introduced Ryan Gosling as Ghost Rider. I was indifferent about that. And then they showed some footage from Doomsday, a lot of which has already been leaked online. I didn't even want to see it, but I'll be honest with you. And somebody messages with me, and my phone auto-played it. So that's like, okay, great. So it gives you some insight. But as far as Fallout goes, I would say this is probably the year where the organization made it to the conversation. Because I told you guys, last year's Comic-Con sucked. It was disorganized. The security was bad. Nobody seemed to know what anyone else was doing, even though you knew Comic-Con was coming. It's not like we jump out of a manhole cover and make surprise Comic-Con. No, you guys know exactly when this is coming. You have all this time to rehearse. You have all this time to do what we in the Army call rock drills. To where you have a big map and you put in your people here, here, and here, and what's going to happen. All your contingency plans, all your crowd control plans. You have literally 365 days to come up with better plans than Comic-Con has. And every year they invent new ways to fuck it up. But this year was mainly a lot of the counterfeiting. I know when I was at Phil wanted to get the absolute Bunkos. He got there early enough to have a shot. He had no shot because of counterfeit wristbands. Hundreds of people who tried to get into Hall H didn't get into Hall H because there were counterfeit wristbands that were making it into the line. And then Comic-Con was indifferent about it. They're like, oops, they're not guaranteed anything. So I think that if they cannot expand the convention hall, which they can, it's they need to better utilize the convention hall. Because even one of the panels, the Absolute DC panel that I've made it into every year, the Absolute DC has been a thing. I could not get into that. I don't know what they were sniffing that told them we could hold it in the same exact ballroom that we did the last 2 years. Have you not seen the static around this title? Have you not gone downstairs and seen literally immediately capped out lines for Nick Dakota and Scott Snyder and anybody else? Have you not seen the sales of this? Why didn't you put this in a bigger ballroom? So a lot of the problems, just managing their ballrooms, could be a little bit better. If you can't fit people into Hall H proper, then fit them into one of the big ballrooms and give them the same stuff. I think they got to get with the Marriott and some of these other things, some of the official stuff. I don't know what they're going to do, or if they, are the only other option is continue to raise prices on people that, the people that are coming every year. Because if you can't expand, then you have to get the revenue from the people who you let in. So other than that, I still think it was a good con because I made it one. And I just refused to let any of their their organization, disorganization stopped my good time. I got cool stuff from the for this came up. It's too far away. If they're not going to do it at Petco, which is literally right there, then that Chong Rain is too far away from them. To be honest with you, with other apparatuses and other venues and other places to put this news out, I think Hall H. If you went away, I wouldn't be. I got it out of my system. I wouldn't be. And for anybody that's saying that Comic Con is nothing without Hall H, literally you're going to tell me out of 130,000 people, 6,500 that they can't cram into that space is going to hurt Comic Con. Most of the people that come to Comic Con can't get in anyway, and they still show the Comic Con, so I don't think that's going to be a problem. You got D23 coming up. I know D23 is mainly movies, but you also, even if you don't currently have a platform to put it out, you can make one. Warner Brothers can make a platform to put it out. Disney can do their own thing. Anybody that wants to put things out, most of these studios are owned by channels that can put these things out. There's this thing called the internet and YouTube you can put them out on. So I think that I think eventually Hall H won't be as big a deal. Because this, like I said, Marvel put out a 31-minute panel. I mean, they made some announcements, but usually it's a minimum hour-long panel, and they make a lot more of a splash. So, that's an issue. Other than that, what else went on that really? Oh, it's the popularity of Comic-Con has completely and fully and utterly recovered from anything. There are no remnants of COVID. That is one of the businesses that as soon as they were able to get back to full capacity, the people were ready to come. And Sunday, the getaway day, is the day where, the people who have been there and are going to be there until things wrap up, that's when we get the most space to walk through and, get our legs. Nope, not this year. They were packed. They were packed until, people started tearing shit down. So there you go. Yeah, Marvel didn't do much, but this would, like I said before, this would have been the year that if DC came out with a presentation, they would have been the news. If DC came out with some type of presentation, they would have been the news. To LA Comic Con, I don't know. I don't think. I don't know. I just haven't thought about Hall H as much. Comic-Con will say they want to keep it. It's a big staple of what we do, but I'm like, you're not going to miss 6,000 people. Guess what? If those 6,000 people who buy con ticket just to go to Hall H, that's 6,000 other people that never get to get in. You're not going to lose that money. So, yeah. Well, D23 is more of their TV stuff, but Warner Brothers need to do something. And then that's another thing is when you have major studios opting not to be there. No, not as far as the attendance goes. There's a lot of people that even though we're in 2026 that never fully recovered from people's buying habits changed. The movie theaters. There's a lot of businesses, retail. There's a lot of businesses that even though COVID is gone as far as like being the thing that was killing 1 million people a month or whatever, however many people it was killing, like that ticker, remember that? There are a lot of businesses that never recovered from it, even though the pandemic and the rules that bound us ended. There are a lot of people because they developed habits and things that they just never gave up. Whereas Comic-Con, the one place where you can probably catch any fucking virus, they had to alter what they did for 2 years, but now they are completely back. Yeah, well, that's in Concord. Concord, you can catch Concord prior to COVID. There's just a lot of people being bought into. If you're asking me logistically, I would say yes. If you were asking me as William Powell, it's 115 degrees today, and I need to get the hell out of here for 4 or 5 days. Granted, it was hot and muggy in there too, but it was 80. It was 80 instead of 115. There's a huge difference. So I think for me, I want to keep it in San Diego because that's my pilgrimage to go through there. But if you're asking logistically, if I were the person running it and I needed to make a certain amount of money to able to keep it viable, to keep it growing, because right now there's no room for growth, then logistically you can't dismiss Vegas. Even though, oh, people will never go out to Vegas because it's 115 degrees. I know. But you know who else is out here with me? Millions and millions and millions of tourists. Our hotels are doing okay right now. I get tourists coming in every day. They wait till nighttime, but they come out. And along with the remote control and the internet and all these other things I created the air conditioning. And inside these big buildings, there's air conditioning. There's plenty of it. And unlike where if you took the gas lamp and you took the convention center, the entirety of the Gaslamp district, and you take it, right? And you took the convention center, you could still fit all of it. The convention center from San Diego and the Gaslamp district, the entire district, and you could fit 3 of them inside of one of our convention halls. The Las Vegas Convention Center is the Death Star. It is huge, and it's still growing. So a lot of the walking around that people would do outside, there would be so much inside of that infrastructure. And then tourists come out here. Millions of tourists come out here every summer. Summer is one of the busiest times we have out here. They're doing just fine. It's not like the sun comes out. It's not like, it hits 100 degrees and Vegas shuts down. It's very much operating right now. And there are people walking around out in the daytime, and they're walking around on that strip out in the nighttime. But the way Vegas is set up is different from the Gaslamp because you have to go out and do certain things in order to experience Comic-Con. It's a lot more cramped. The Death Star you would never have the kind of crowding situation you have in San Diego. You would never have that. You would never be necessary. And the hotel gouging and thing that's going on, that's one of the things that pisses off the organizers in San Diego is because they can't price control and they're afraid that people are just going to stop coming. And you'll still have it packed, but eventually it'll get too expensive for people to come and you're going to start losing. You're never going to run out of hotels in Las Vegas. Las Vegas was built for many times the size that Comic-Con can ever throw at it. So logistically, you could do it here. Do I want it to come out here? No. I love getting on that plane. I love landing in San Diego. I love knowing that everything around me means that I am at Comic-Con. Here, I'm just going to be in Vegas. So logistically, yes, Music Man. Spiritually, no. How about that? Just like Sony wasn't showing up to E3, Xbox, Nintendo, they killed the spirit of E3. Yeah, and I think that's going to end up happening with some of these. Eventually, these guys are going to be like, is it worth it for us? A mild 117 degrees. By the way, you can hear the heat out here in Vegas. Not just the wind blowing. You can hear the heat. When you can hear the heat, you know you're in hell. William, they don't need to move to Las Vegas. LA Convention Center is really big. Yeah, but there's no room for growth there. There's no room. And plus, downtown LA is since you have limited real estate down there, it's super expensive. If you ever stayed at a hotel downtown LA, it's super expensive. They could hold 2 different Comic-Cons. They literally could. He's not joking. They could host a convention the size of the current San Diego Comic-Con, and on the North Hall host another one the same size as that Comic-Con, and you could do it. You could do it. It's so big. I think they want to keep it in the West. All right, guys. That is it. We've reached 2 hours, so thank you for being here. Like, subscribe. Going to take tomorrow off and probably see if we can get back on the air and back on a normal schedule on Tuesdays. Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Friday, Saturday. I'll figure it out. I got to get back to it because like I said, now Comic-Con is over, but we got a lot of other stuff coming up. But I do want to get back to the normal scheduling, at least the normal frequency. So be on the lookout. I'll set it up. Until then, like, subscribe, share the gospel. And if you have any comments, I know I'm going to get some hate about just about everything I talked about tonight. That's fine. Just if you're leaving a comment, leave a comment that you would want a respectful response to. Don't be a troll. You don't have to agree with me, but if you're going to spend the time to interact in a way that you would want me to interact back with you in, and if you're not going to do that, then don't do it. But if you have a legitimate thought or question, let's do it. All right, guys. We will see you next. Actually, it is next week. We will see you this week. Bye.